Sorry, we have to do this in so many parts. It's a long chapter. Remember, Mrs. Piggle Wiggle was going to show Phoebe where she was going to stay. Phoebe's bedroom was a very cozy little room with a sloping ceiling and a high 4-poster bed that had a little ladder to climb into it, and the window looked right into the walnut tree. "Oh, what a darling room, Mrs. Piggle Wiggle!" She looked around quickly to see where the light was. There wasn't any. On the bedside table was a candle. "Do you use candles?" "Oh my, yes, candles and kerosene lamps. When things get better and I sell my apples and walnuts, I might buy a light plant." "Oh, candles make awfully funny shadows, Mrs. Piggle Wiggle, like witches and goblins." "Oh, no, not like witches and goblins. For goodness sakes, like bunnies and fairies and elves. I can make very good shadow pictures, and I'll show you how tonight. Now, while you put your clothes away, I'm going down to the cellar to get some apples. I thought we'd have applesauce and gingerbread for dessert." Phoebe carefully laid out her clean underclothes and her socks and her t-shirts carefully into each of the drawers of the bureau. Then she took her Sunday dress and her coat and started toward the closet. The closet was large and dark. It was under the eaves. Phoebe opened the door and peeked in. Taylor and Filbert, the gray squirrels who had a secret walnut store in the front corner, thinking that it was Mrs. Piggle Wiggle, shouted at her, "Chicka, chicka, 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 chicka!" "Oh my! Rats! Oh, big rats! Oh, wait till I tell Mrs. Piggle Wiggle!" And she slammed the door. Throwing her dress and her coat on the bed, she ran downstairs yelling, "Mrs. Piggle Wiggle! Mrs. Piggle Wiggle! Come here quickly! There's rats in my closet!" But there was no answer, and the kitchen was empty. Phoebe went out to the back porch. "Mrs. Piggle Wiggle!" Still no answer. "Oh dear, she's gone away and left me. What will I do?" Penelope said, "She's not gone away and left you. I've been here all the time and she hasn't crossed the porch." "Well, then where is she? I've called and called." "Well, what were you calling about?" "Rats. Huge gray rats in my closet, and I was afraid to hang up my dress." "I'll go up and take a look. Come on." "Oh, no, you go. I'm scared to death of rats." "Oh, you're scared to death of everything. So come along, and show me where you saw the rats." "Oh, all right. Do you want to ride on my shoulder?" "Heavens, no. I can't abide nervous, jumpy people. I'll walk," said Penelope. When Phoebe opened the closet door, Taylor and Filbert were still there. "Chicka, chicka, 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 chicka." Phoebe screamed, and Penelope said, "You ninny! Those are squirrels! Squirrels! Come here, Filbert. Come here, Taylor. Come on, I'll show you, girl. This is just a squirrel." Rolling some walnuts ahead of them, Taylor and Filbert came out into the light of the doorway. Oh, they are squirrels. Will they bite me?" "Of course not. Squirrels aren't carnivorous. Thanks, boys. Just wanted to make sure she could see you. The squirrels sat back expectantly. "Now, hang up your coat and your dress," said Phoebe. Trembling just a little bit, Phoebe did so. Taylor and Filbert just watched her, and as soon as she shut the closet door, they went through her coat pockets and took 2 pieces of saltwater taffy and a stick of double monk gum and hid them under their walnut pile. When they got downstairs, Mrs. Piggle Wiggle still wasn't there. Penelope suggested they go look to the barn and see if she was out there. "Are there animals in the barn?" "Naturally. Did you think there'd be an Eskimo?" "Oh, are there Eskimos around here?" Phoebe shivered. "No, not Eskimos. But Eskimos are very nice people. Now come on. They walked down to the watering trough. Evelyn and Warren and the goslings, and Millard and Martha and the ducklings were all swimming around in the pond. Of course, the minute he saw Phoebe, Warren, the goose, began to hiss and stretch his neck and flap his wings. And, of course, Phoebe screamed and ran back to the house. "Oh, Warren, for heaven's sake! That girl's only a visitor and wouldn't harm your goslings. Anyway, have you forgotten what Mrs. Piggle Wiggle told us the other night? What? Said Warren. What? Said Willard and Martha. She told us that this girl Phoebe is very timid, and while she is here, we are to be as gentle as possible. Now get back on that pond and hush up, hush up, hush up. I'll go up to the house and coax her down again. So the ducks and the geese got back onto the pond, and Penelope flew to the porch and talked Phoebe into coming down to the barn. This time, when they went past the watering trough, all the ducks and geese sailed around and around, smiling in circles at Phoebe, making little ripples in the water. In the barn, there was a great deal of stamping and snorting from Trotsky's stall. Oh, heavens! What's that dreadful noise? Phoebe clutched the ladder of the loft and wouldn't move. Oh, that's just Trotsky the horse, and a gentle, more faithful animal have never lived. Let's go in and see him. Oh, no, horses are too big. Well, then let's go up in the hayloft and look down the hay chute at him. Oh, I couldn't, I'm afraid of ladders. Well, oh my, come around to the front of his stall, said Penelope, sighing. He can't possibly get out, and you will have his feed box between you. So Phoebe timidly crept around to the front of Trotsky's stall, and Trotsky nodded his head and smiled at her and put his nose down to be stroked. Instead of stroking his nose, Phoebe jumped as if he had bitten her. Get back! Oh, no! Trotsky looked at Penelope in a very bewildered way. You'll just have to excuse her, Trotsky. She's more timid than a wild rabbit. Say, now, how come you're all saddled and bridled? Trotsky shrugged his shoulders. Come on, Phoebe. I'll show you the little piglets and their mother Fanny, Clematis and her lambs, Heather and Arbutus, the bunnies and the chickens and the turkeys and their poults, and Georgette and Leah and Paulette and their baby chicks. I can tell you right now that you don't want to see Pulitzer the owl or Billy the bat or Winston Toad. Fanny was fairly civil to Phoebe, and the piglets were darling. They squealed and played, and when Penelope pulled up the little door into Lester's pen, Armour and Swift came in and let Phoebe hold them and pat them. Heather was as timid and sweet-smelling as any little calf, and Phoebe hugged her around the neck and scratched her behind the ears. Clematis and the lambs wouldn't come to the pasture fence, but Phoebe got to see them anyway, and she thought Clematis had let herself go terribly, and the lambs were just little like toys, all fluffy and soft. Of course, Phoebe was scared to death when Tom and Tamara, the turkey, came up, and she jumped 10 feet in the air when Tom gobbled at her. She didn't mind the chickens so much, but her hands were so trembly when she gathered the eggs that she cracked 3 on the edge of the nest. She liked the bunnies, but she was afraid of the old hens who were taking dust baths in the sunshine by the manure pile. Well, that's that, said Penelope when the tour was over. Now we better go up and ask Mrs. Piggle Wiggle why Trotsky is saddled. It may be that she was going to teach you to ride. Oh, no, please not that. I don't want to ride. I wouldn't know how to steer. Even I can steer Trotsky, said Penelope. You just tell him where you want to go, and he goes, and he goes, and he goes. When you get there, he stops. If you want to stop before he does, you say, whoa, whoa, whoa. Now, isn't that easy? Oh, but what if I fall off? Why should you fall off? Anyway, you got stirrups to put your feet in and the saddle horn to hold on to. Now let's go up to the house. When they got up to the house, they still didn't see Mrs. Piggle Wiggle. She wasn't upstairs. She wasn't in the parlor. She wasn't in the kitchen. Did she tell you where she was going? Oh, no. Yes, she did. Oh, she said she was going to the cellar to get some apples. Well, maybe we better look in the cellar then. The door is outside here under the dining room window. One of the doors was open, but it was pretty dark down in the cellar, so Penelope sent Phoebe to get the kitchen. She sent Phoebe to the kitchen for a candle and some matches. Phoebe said that she was afraid of matches, but Penelope said, let's have none of that nonsense, girl. Strike up a match and be quick about it. I'm worried about Mrs. Piggle Wiggle. So Phoebe struck the match and lit the candle, and she and Penelope went to the cellar. And there they found Mrs. Piggle Wiggle in the fruit closet with a barrel of apples tipped over on her foot. She was faint with pain and her voice was just a whisper. "You won't be able to move the apples, Phoebe. Get on Trotsky and ride as fast as you can over to the Larsens and send Nels back to move the barrel. Penelope, you go upstairs and call the doctor. Just tell the operator to get him for you. Everybody hurry, please. Oh, I'm in great pain." And Mrs. Piggle Wiggle closed her eyes. Penelope jumped on Phoebe's shoulder and said, "Come on, girl, run as fast as you can down to the barn." So Phoebe ran, and when she got to the barn, Penelope told her to untie Trotsky and lead him to the watering trough. There, she told her to climb up on the watering trough and then onto Trotsky's back. "Now put your feet in the stirrups. Pick up the reins. All right, Trotsky, take her over to the Larsens as fast as you can. Hang on tight, Phoebe, but don't slow down. At first, Phoebe was so scared she closed her eyes and lay forward in the middle of the saddle like a sack of cornmeal. Trotsky didn't gallop, which was very joggly and hard on a new rider, but he ran using his right hind foot and left forefront together and his left hind foot and his right forefront foot together. There was so little motion that the first thing Phoebe knew, she was sitting up and holding on to the reins and loving the ride. The wind blew through her mouth and the fences streaked by in long lines, and the trees looked like little fences. Then all of a sudden they were in the Larsens' lane, and then in their barnyard, and Mr. Larsen came running up from the tractor shed. "What's the matter? I saw you clear over by the oat field. Who are you?" "I'm Phoebe Jackstraw, and Mrs. Piggle Wiggle's hurt. A barrel of apples fell on her foot, and she can't get it off, and she wants you quick." "Move on up," said Nels, and he vaulted onto the saddle right behind her. "All right, Trotsky, go!" And he put one strong arm around Phoebe, and Trotsky galloped all the way home. Galloping was like being in a boat on a storm, Phoebe thought. Up and down and slap and hard, and up and down and slap and down hard again. Phoebe liked it, but she was so glad that Nels was there to hold on to her. When they got to the farm, Penelope was waiting on the porch. "You certainly made good time. The doctor's on his way." And she flew to Nell's shoulder. "Cellar's over this way. Phoebe, go in the kitchen and build a fire and put some water on to heat. You might make a pot of coffee while you're at it. She and Nels went around the house. Phoebe went into the kitchen. She had never made a fire in her life, and the only stove she had ever seen was her mother's electric range. She wished Penelope had stayed to help her. She opened the little door in the front of the stove. The stove was black. No coals were even in there. She remembered that some people used newspaper, so she stuffed some into the stove and poked it around with some small pieces of wood. Then she lit a match. To her amazement, the paper flared up and caught the kindling. Then the kindling cracked and popped. She added some big sticks. Soon they caught and burned too. She was so proud and kept the little door opening and closing and looking at her fire that she forgot about the water. She lifted the kettle. It was empty. She ran to the back porch, set it down in front of the pump, and fearfully lifted the handle. There was a loud slurping sound like somebody was getting the last drop out of their ice cream soda. And with a frightened gasp, she dropped the pump handle. "Oh, no! I think I better go down by the pond." Wag jumped down and with both paws helped pull down the pump handle. A small stream of water came out of the mouth and into the tea kettle. "Oh, that's the way you do it?" Phoebe asked Wag. Wag barked. So she gently lifted up and down the pump handle, and it made the same gurgling sound. This time she wasn't afraid. She pumped until she had the kettle full. "Hey, say, pumping's fun!" Her fire was going very well. Now she poked at it until the firebox was clear full. Penelope came up into the kitchen. "Did you get the fire going all right?"